Hi boys and girls. I hope you are ready for some more algebra readiness. We're going to talk about decimals today. This is Algebra Readiness 2.5 because when I first made the video, I made Readiness 2 way too long, and so I've had to break it up. So let's get started so I don't waste my minutes. So decimals. So when you add or subtract decimals, you must line up the decimals when you write the problem. As you see here, my decimals are on top here. They're in line. This is subtraction. Here, they are in line for addition. Over here, multiplication does not matter. But for subtraction and addition, your decimals must be lined up, one on top of the other. So let's go ahead and subtract here. Can you take 5 from 3? No. So we go next door and we borrow from this 6. We bring 60 becomes 50, and that 10 is here to make the 3 a 13. 13 minus 5 is 8. Cannot take 8 from 5, so you go next door and you make this $8, $7, and bring that over here to make 15, 8. 15 minus 8, or count up, put 8 in your head, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's 7. Some people try to count backwards. That's too hard for me. Can't do it. And then 7 minus 1 is 6. Now the last thing you do is you bring your decimal down. You don't have to worry about it. Pretend it's not there until the end. Bring the decimal down. All right, let's add here. You notice that there's nothing here. I have lined up my decimals, but I'm missing a number here. I'm like, oh, what do I do? You can just fill that in with a 0. Okay? So now you have a number in the hundreds place. So let's go ahead and add. 8 plus 0 is 8. 3 plus 0 is 3. 7 and 6 is 13. And the last thing I do is put my decimal in place. There we go. Now, so that's adding and subtracting, must line the decimal up. But now we're going to move on to multiplication. In multiplication, you do not have to worry about lining up decimals. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. So pretend there are no decimals while you're multiplying. That's easiest. Don't think about having to put them in until the very end, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and multiply. 5 times 9 is 45. Carry your 4. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 4 is 14. Carry your 1. And 5 times 4 is 20 plus 1 is 21. So I have 2, 1, 4, 5. And I'm like, okay, where do I put the decimal? This is how you start over here all to your far right, and you count how many places in your decimals are. So in this first line, I have 1, 2 places. And then down here, I have 1. So I have 1, 2, 3 all together. So I'm going to start here to the far right, and I'm going to count 3 places. 1, 2, 3. And that is where my decimal goes. 1, 2, 3. See that? So I have 3 spaces here, and I allow for that in my answer. 2.145 is your correct answer. You don't put the decimal in the correct spot, you can get the whole answer wrong just because you misplaced the decimal. You don't want to do that after you've done all that multiplication correctly. All right, let's move down here, and I'm trying to make sure there's no, I'll hold it up here, so there's no glare down here. So once again, we're going to multiply. 3 times 7 is 21. Carry your 2. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So I have 8, 1. Once again, I'm going to look here, 1 decimal place, and then I look here, there's no decimal. I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, there's no decimal, what do I do? Well, when there's a whole number and a decimal is not there, you have to assume that the decimal comes after the number. So here, we're not moving in at all. It's here, but we're not moving in. So we're only going to count this from here to here, 1 space. So my decimal in the answer would be here. My answer is going to be 8.1. All right, let's move on to this one here, which is also multiplication. All right, so we're going to multiply. 8 times 5 is 40, carry your 4. 8 times 0 is 0 plus 4 is 4. 8 times 0 is 0. And then I could go ahead and put my marker 0 and then put 0, 0, 0. But 0 times everything is 0. I'm not even going to bother. So here I have my answer is 0, 4, 0. So I have to look at my decimal places. 1, 2, 3 for the first top line, and 1, 2. So I've got 5 spaces. I don't have that many numbers down here. So what do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My decimal is going to be all the way back here. So what do I do for those spaces? I put zeros in those spaces. So your answer here is going to be 0.0040. 0. You don't have to put that 0 in because it comes at the end, but you can if you'd like. All right, moving on, division with decimals. So I have one over here. We'll do that one, and then I'll put a couple more up. So in division, your decimal just stays right where it is, and you move it up to the answer. So here is the decimal. So in my answer, it's going to be here. So you can put it in first, you can put it in last. That is where your decimal is going to be in your answer. And there is an exception, and I'll show you that in a minute, but not for this problem. All right, 5 doesn't go into 1, so I don't need to put anything over the 1. 5 goes into 16 5 times. No, it doesn't. 3 times. Here we go. 3 times 5 is 15. Subtract, bring down a 6. 5 into 16 goes 3. 3 times 5 is 15. Bring down a 1. Now, I have nothing up here. But I'm also not ready to continue here to finish, so I need to bring down my magic 0. 5 into 10 goes 2. 2 times 5 is 10. There's nothing left over. So my answer here is 3.32. All right, now I want to show you 2 more problems of division with decimals. Now, if we were in class and this was the first time you had done these problems, we would take a lot longer, but we are not going to take a lot of time on this. We're going to do 0.04 into 0.033, and we're going to do 11 into 8. All right. Trying to get rid of that glare. Here we go. All right, here, to make this easier for me to divide, I'm going to move my decimal so that this is a whole number, a 4, and not 4 hundredths. So I'm going to do this. There we go. And in under the divisor, I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to move the decimal in both places. This is the exception I was telling you about. So the decimal is going to be up here, and that's where it's going to be in your answer now. 4 will not go into 0 or 3, so you want to put some zeros up here, you could, or you could just leave it blank. So now, how many times does 4 go into 33? So 4 goes into 33 8 times. 8 times 4 is 32. I'm going to subtract. Now, usually, they are going to ask you to round to 2 decimal places. In order to do that, you have to actually have 3 numbers after the decimal. So we're going to keep on going with our magic zeros. We're just going to bring them down. 4 into 10 goes 2. 2 times 4 is 8. I'm going to subtract and get 2. Bring down another magic 0. 4 into 20 goes 5. 5 times 4 is 20. All right. there's nothing, no. After I subtracted, I got 0, so I am finished. So my answer here is 0.825. But if I wanted to round that to the nearest second decimal place, I would look at the, underline the 8, look at the 2. Now, do you remember your rounding? So if the number in the place that you're rounding to, our second decimal place, if that is less than 5, then this number stays the same. If this is greater, 5 or greater, this number would go up 1. But we are not rounding to the first decimal place, we're rounding to the second decimal place. So we're going to underline the 2, we're going to look at the 5. All right, looking at the 5, 5 says I'm going to go up. So this number is the only one that really changes here. Here is my approximate sign, symbol. I'm not going to put equal because it doesn't equal that. We are estimating. So here my answer will be 0.83. And you're like, why? Because 5 and up make this number change. It goes up 1. If this was a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4, then I would round this number 0.82. All right, let's try one more of those. (11) into 8. And remember, when my number does not have a decimal, it's going to be right after it. And 11 doesn't go into 8. I'm going to put some magic zeros up here. And let's go ahead and try this. 11 goes into 8. Nope. So I have nothing here. I can bring my decimal up, but there's nothing in here. 11 into 80 goes 7 times. 7 times 11 is 77. When I subtract, I get 3. I'm going to bring down a 0. 11 goes into 30 2 times. 2 times 11 is 22. I'm going to subtract. I'm going to get 8. I'm going to bring down another magic 0. 11 into 80 goes 7 times. 77. Do you see the pattern here? The pattern is going to be 7 2 7 2 7 2 7 2. So like I said, I only need 3 numbers after the decimal to round to my second decimal place. So if this is the number that I want to see if it's going to stay the same or go up. So I'm going to draw an arrow to the thousandth place in this case. And a 7, well, that's 5 or higher. So the 7 makes the 2 go to a 3. So this is now going to be 0.73, an approximation. I'm estimating. If this number had been less than 5, this would have stayed 0.72. All right, so that is all that we're going to cover today in decimals. If you have any questions, you can give me a call and or text me, Ms. Robinson. You know my number. All right, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.